Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dogs and cats, children, as well as babies, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the Driveline Academy podcast. I'm your host, Evan Morgan, Director of Baseball, Driveline, founder of the Driveline Academy. This is the world's most dangerous youth baseball podcast, coming to you with a special edition on my deck. That's just what it is. I'm a guy sitting on his deck with a headset on because it's the only microphone that I could find. And the reason I'm here is because I have to take off for a baseball game in a couple hours, so I'm not down at the studio, but I'm instead here. So welcome. Hi, how are you? Thought it would be important. Well, maybe not important. I don't want to self-aggrandize my own role. So let's just say maybe pertinent to talk about the new USABat BBCOR rules that have come out, and specifically the inclusion of now USABat stamped Drop-4, Drop-5, and Drop-6 bats in high school play legal starting in 2028, because a lot of people, myself included, had some fairly significant concerns about what that means. And like as a parent, the thing that you don't want to see is you don't want your kid get hit with like 120 mile an hour liner comebacker because like an 18-year-old Vandy commit is swinging a Drop-6 in high school play. That's not a thing that we want. I think some of those fears are a little bit unfounded, so we're going to talk about why that is, right? Because the reality is that there's one thing that kind of dictates whether this is a concern or not, and some of it has to do with the way that BBCOR performance is already controlled and some answers we don't have about how the system is going to work for this USABat. So, like, let's get into it. And the first thing to understand is there is a cap to exit velocity for these BBCOR and USA stamp bats at present because of the way that they're manufactured. That said, there is a loophole for how you could construct a bat relative to kind of what they've put out that would allow you to actually have some real concerns there. And right now we don't have enough information about whether that loophole has been solved for or not the way that it is solved in BBCOR. So let's get into it, right? The first thing is that current BBCOR bats, for what they've said, are still going to be allowed in high school play. So you and I, because I'm still in this pace, shouldn't necessarily jump out and go buy a new bat because I feel like my kid needs to have a USA BBCOR stamp on their bat, right? The standard performance and what BBCOR stands for, batted ball coefficient of restitution, is not changing. The thing we need to understand a little bit is like what this whole coefficient of restitution thing means and why that should work to not create a situation where your kid, my kid, gets hit with like a 120 mile an hour comebacker. And the reason for that is because of the way that the performance is defined through the BBCOR standard. Again, batted ball coefficient of restitution. Let's not throw a bunch of $5 words on it. What does batted ball coefficient of restitution means? It means how bouncy and basically how much trampoline effect there is relative to the flexing of the materials and the flexing of the ball that happens when you have bat to ball surface area contact, right? Both of those things are legally capped at 0.50. So the reason when we go buy BBCOR bats and it says BBCOR 0.50 standard, that's what that is. By rule, what's supposed to happen is the batted ball coefficient of restitution, and again, plain language, how much trampoline effect there is and how much bounce there is of the ball coming off the barrel is capped at a 0.5. So, if what they're telling us is these USA bats, or the USABat standard bats, which again, that Dr. Alan Nathan was involved in the formulation of the way that those sort of things are done, the same way that he did with the batted ball coefficient of restitution, or BBCOR standard. Originally, the pop shouldn't change, right? In terms of the actual springiness or the trampoline effect or the bounciness, however you want to conceptualize it, of the ball coming off the bat, that shouldn't change. The thing that we do get worried about, I think, is swing weight, right? So I am not going to use the word moment of inertia. I'm just going to throw that one to the side. We're just going to talk about, I think, a simpler thing to understand, which is swing weight, which is exactly what moment of inertia is, but I digress. The issue is that you could have two different bats that have the same swing weight that feel very different. And the reason for that is because of the way that the bat weight is distributed. We kind of understand this anecdotally when we're talking about hand-loaded bats or end-loaded bats. An end-loaded bat is going to have a higher swing weight, higher moment of inertia, because there's more weight away from the center of the axis of rotation, right? If the hands are here and we are swinging the bat here, shout out to anybody that wants to catch video of me taking a swing. You want to dunk on me because my swing's bad. Good luck. The point being is that the more weight is away from basically where the hands are, the higher the swing weight is. So the reason, if you did like the finger test, right? And weirdly enough, this is like the one space in my house where I don't have a bunch of bats just kind of within like a 6 to 8 foot radius. If you did like the finger test, right? And you take the bat and you kind of like balance it on your finger and you see how much weight is in the barrel versus how much weight is in the hands, and what space do you need to get to on the bat in order to find that equal balance position, is an indication of its swing weight, right? The more of the handle and less of the barrel that is away from like, gosh, I'm doing a crappy job of explaining this. I'm balancing a bat on my finger, right? The more of the bat that I need to push, and if this is where the barrel is and this is where the hands are, the more of the bat that I need to push this way, so there's less barrel on this side of my finger, meaning that there's more weight out here to balance the abundance of weight in the barrel, the more end-loaded that bat is. Boy, I'm terrified that doesn't make sense. And basically, the way to kind of understand this is now we're starting to get into effective mass at the point of contact, okay? What we're presuming is that the way that this standard was built for USABats, it would be a Drop-4 or a Drop-5 or a Drop-6, is that they're going to have some amount of standardization to the total swing weight, otherwise known as moment of inertia, that defines these bats. Because the way that this could go sideways, the loophole as it were, is if I was a bat maker, right, and I was given the task of building Drop-4, Drop-5, Drop-6 bats that were the highest performing bats possible, absent any other type of restriction, well, I will tell you exactly what I would do. I would conform to the standard so that the length and weight are in relationships to each other. So in this instance, let's think that I am building a 33 Drop-6, so it's a 3327, so not a 3330 that would be standardized with BBCOR. I have the ability to make a 33 Drop-6, so 3327, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the maximum amount of that weight so that the bat doesn't break, but it still performs in the barrel. And I'm going to have the handle and the neck of the bat going into the barrel be as light as possible in order to mitigate the thing that I've done, which is by taking total weight away, right? Total weight, meaning I'm swinging a Drop-6 instead of a Drop-3. I've got 3 ounces that I can remove somewhere. What I want to be able to do is I want to be able to remove those 3 ounces, but I still want enough weight behind the barrel and behind where contact is being made, because that kind of defines the conditions of the bat-to-ball collision. God, I'm terrified that I'm screwing this up. Please, if I could, have Dr. Nathan or somebody smarter than me beside me to kind of do this stuff, I would. Instead, you just get my dumb ass trying to explain it. That's kind of the thing to kind of understand here, right? The drop weight only defines the relationship between length and weight, not the swing weight of the bat. And again, this is the thing we understand, right? There have been popular performing bats in our space for years now that are end-loaded, meaning that there is more weight towards the end of the bat. And what can happen is for the same amount of bat speed, right? Same bat speed, same collision efficiency, everything else is equal. But the one bat that has more weight at the point of contact is going to propel the ball further, because that's when that stuff comes into play, right? So what you could do is you could build basically a Drop-6 that feels like a Drop-3. And in doing so, you have a bat that is easier to swing and control, but it gives up basically nothing when it comes to collision efficiency. right? So because of that, you could see higher bat speeds because the overall weight is reduced, but you could see greater exit velocity because you've kind of played with the swing weight that way to be able to conform to the standard, but also make sure that there's the maximum amount of mass and, to a degree, weight. It kind of functions in the same sense for a dummy like me. You have the same amount of mass and weight being applied from bat into ball at the point of contact. Now, here's what we don't know. These bats don't exist yet. The standard just came out. Nothing's been defined. You can't go into Dick's or go to justbats.com, which is my favorite spot, to go buy these bats. They don't exist yet, so we don't yet know how that's going to work. The other thing we don't know is if in creating this standard for Drop-4s, Drop-5s, Drop-6s in high school, if they have defined a minimum or maximum moment of inertia or swing weight for these type of bats to conform with this standard. So the thing you got to understand, and I will agree that like my first take on this is like, hey man, I'm terrified of the same thing. My child pitches, right? My child pitches in high school, and I know that he's going to see some kids in conference next year who are good college committed baseball players, and I don't want to see him get hit with a comebacker that is 3-4-ish miles an hour harder than it otherwise would, and that amount of added exit velocity impacts his ability to either get out of the way or get a glove on it, and then you have kids getting hurt, right? That's the thing that we don't want to see. The other possible downstream effect is that we see more kids just catching barrels because the bat weight is more in alignment with their level of strength and their level of skill, and be able to manipulate a slightly lighter bat more successfully. And I have to assume that like that's the problem that we're trying to solve, right? The problem we're trying to solve is you worry that there's a certain amount of kids who get run out of the high school baseball environment preemptively because they don't have a combination of strength and skill to deal with this bat standard that just gets dumped on them at 14 when they land on a 90-foot field. So I understand that that's the thing that they are trying to solve. I think that the point that I would offer is like, I don't know that that's the only way that you can solve that problem. I think there's a different way that you can solve it that does a better job of having 13 and 12-year-old kids not be so dependent on drop 10s all the time. I mean, that's what it is, honestly. You're talking about basically like a strength and skill ramping issue. And the path that we're taking right now to solve this is we are coming to the conclusion that we're losing kids from the game because they're not strong enough to move a BBCOR bat. We don't want to do that, so we're going to give them the option to swing USA stamp bats at reduced weights as compared to the BBCOR standard. Fine. The question I would have to ask is, do we truly believe that the BBCOR standard is going to be unapproachable for some amount of athletes? And the answer to that is like, no. Absolutely that is not the case. Can you put all of these kids who work into high school baseball on a strength program that is directionally safe and applicable for them, and it costs $0? Well, yes, you can. Push-ups are free. like push-ups are free. Curls are free. Shoulder presses are free. Medicine balls aren't free, but like, I don't know, man. I got a stack of cut wood down here that would function just fine in order to train at a very, very low level an increase in ballistical rotational power and power expression by way of something we typically do with med balls. But like, hey man, I got a block of wood down here I can throw. So I understand, like I understand the impetus. I think we are staring straight in the face the period of time with which we would be able to solve this, which is between the day that you turn 12 and the day that you turn 14. You got 724 days? No, 730 days. Tough scene. You have 2 years in order to go from, hey, I played baseball as a 12-year-old, I'm highly dependent upon the thing that helps me have the most fun and perform the best. And whether that's a drop 10 USABat or a drop 10 U-trip or even a drop 8, like I don't care, some version of that. I understand what we're orienting for at the ages of 12 and under. However, you got 2 years to get ready to swing BBCOR. And to that end, it's hard not to feel like if you are wasting those 2 years because you are focused on performance and you still want the lightest bat possible and you're trying to be a little bit intentionally ignorant of the coming drop 3 BBCOR standard that otherwise, before this rule, would land on your doorstep, that you are just perhaps not using your time the best way. And like, I'm not trying to judge, I'm just kind of making an observation. So yeah, that's the thing, right? The important things to understand, again, is that because the coefficient of restitution for both of these standards is capped, whether that's USABat or whether that's BBCOR bat, we shouldn't necessarily be looking at a world where we are scared about the potential danger of increased exit velocity and the effect that that has on the time that our defenders and our pitchers have in order to make decisions and make sure that they can stay safe while playing in this game. That shouldn't be a thing so long as we control for the overall swing weight, and that's the thing we don't know about the standard as it's been discussed yet, about whether that's a thing or not. I would like to think that if they are involving, some of the people that are involved with this standard before, again, I cannot. If you really want to dig deep and be a real dork about this stuff, Dr. Alan Nathan's work is published. His website is fantastic. Go check that stuff out. But again, so long as coefficient of restitution is capped in both standards, it should by nature not change the fact that as bat speed can go up. So we have a Arkansas commit, 18-year-old kid swinging a 34-27, right? Because coefficient of restitution is capped, that kid should not be able to hit a ball that is meaningfully different in terms of exit velocity and batted ball speed than he would with a drop 3, because coefficient of restitution is capped, and that in and of itself should inhibit you from being able to do the thing, which is create a dangerous condition. But a lot of that, again, kind of defaults back to whether there are rules around floor for moment of inertia, because that's the thing that would make this thing go sideways. If you have a world where this kid is thinking a 34 drop 6, there isn't a floor for coefficient or for swing weight, moment of inertia. And in doing so, you were able to create a bat that conforms to standard by being drop 6 ounces lighter than it is long, but it maintains the same amount of mass in the barrel that a BBCOR bat would be, in which case you would see higher swing weight, same coefficient of restitution as BBCOR. You'd see higher bat speed, and you wouldn't see mitigation to collision efficiency, and then you would see higher exit velocity. There is a part of me that doesn't want to put this out because I am terrified that I'm a little bit rough around the edges of the science here. So again, if I do, and you find like a dunk on me movement, or you're perhaps smarter or more educated on this topic, or perhaps you're Dr. Alan Nathan himself, my apologies. I will delete this thing if I'm wrong about any of this stuff, but I've tried to go through the research at a decent level. Maybe we'll do another version of this where we kind of like model these scenarios out with some theoretical weights, but that's what I've got for now. So yeah, this is a very, very brief episode of the Driveline Academy podcast. I don't know if you like this format. Hopefully you like these beautiful gaming headset that I've stolen from my children in order to record this. But yeah, it's abbreviated Youth Bat Madness edition of the Driveline Academy podcast. Are you joining us? My name is Devin. I'm down by law. I'll catch you next time. Thanks. Bye.